Yo, what's going on, my buddies? Totaljophes coming at you with my review for the Nioh beta. Okay, so as we all know, the Nioh beta has been out for a while now, and I'm gonna be honest, it's still it's just as badass as the alpha, more so considering that they added a bunch of new stuff to it, so yeah, it's been awesome. I will say that my review for this won't be the same as my other game reviews, because my other game reviews will base off of story, graphics, and gameplay. But the Nioh beta, because it is just a beta, doesn't really have a whole lot of story to it. So instead of story, graphics, and gameplay, I will mention story, but it's pretty much just going to be graphics and gameplay. So rather than a final score out of 30, it's going to be a final score out of 20. But all the same, here we go. So starting off, like I said, I am going to at least mention the story, even though I'm not really going to give it a score, because it's not really fair. Now, we don't know a whole lot about the story of this game yet, primarily because, well, I mean, we've only gotten an alpha and a beta. They're not going to give away the whole story with just that, so it's understandable that we don't have a whole lot of a story, but even then, we still have at least little bits and pieces. Like, we still have the occasional scene, we have a little bit of background information that we get in the form of text before a level, so we get little bits of it, and from what little bits that we've gotten, we know that, the guy's name is William, and that, I don't actually know if it's explained why he's there yet, but we know that he's an experienced, yokai fighter, and, that's pretty awesome. At some point in time, he meets Hanzo Hattori, which, for those of you who either know Japanese culture or maybe have played Samurai Warriors or something like that, it's a pretty big guy in that sort of historic era of Japan, so that's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting that, this actually all... this game takes place, historically in our world, just with the addition of, a demon world sort of thing. So that's kind of an interesting take. But yeah, like I said, we still don't know a whole lot other than that. We really don't have much on the story, at least not from the beta. This is a review of the beta. If we've gotten some more story from, say, an article or something, or an interview with the developer, that's obviously not going to be in this review. But so far from the story, at the very least, it does look promising. Okay, now on to the actual scored parts of the review, which first off, we're going with graphics. Now, graphics, hands down, this game is fucking beautiful. I will come right out and say that. This game is so freaking good looking. It's not, really photorealistic, but it is still really good. Everything's very, vibrant, full of life. It's very, textured really well, and I mean, it's definitely pleasing to the eyes every time you play that game, and that's definitely a bonus, I think. I think that whereas graphics don't make the game, it is definitely awesome when they have awesome graphics to accompany it, so very, very pleasing. All of the animations are very spot on, and very badass on top of that. More specifically, when you're using a low stance, your attacks often are pretty quick, and I don't know, it just looks like something out of a badass, kung fu or samurai movie, and it's just badass with that. There's a lot of, really unique, demons or yokai in this game, and because the beta does add more than the alpha had, there's a few new enemies as well. And it's not really spoilery for me to go into it, so I'll tell you guys what sort of new enemies there are, and I may miss a couple, but from what I remember, there is these freaky, fiery spinning wheel yokai, or demons, or whatever the hell they're called. They're like a giant demonic face with, some sort of wheel around it, and they're on fire. Which, it might sound kind of stupid the way I'm saying it, but if you actually go in and play the game, they're actually really cool looking, and I don't know, I really liked them. What else? Wow, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know there's more than that. There's definitely more than that, I can guarantee you that. And, oh, right, there's all, these undead things. Not the, undead things in the alpha where they're just those shambling zombie things, but there's full-on undead samurais, and not the ones that you summon that are players or anything, but they're just these bodies that'll be laying around, and if you get close to them, they'll get up and start attacking you. And there's ones with swords, there's ones with spears, and then there's these giant ass ones with axes. They're pretty cool. But yeah, all in all, all of the good stuff that we've seen in this game, it's all been really good. They also added new, like a whole new level, which is kind of like this mountainous cave sort of thing. Like you start off kind of like on ledges of the mountain, but you get into the caves and you start working really deep down into the caverns and shit. And that was really cool. And on top of that, like they have a brand new boss for that brand new level, which again, not exactly spoilery to just tell you what it is. It doesn't have any story to go along with it. It has a little bit, but not much. But it's like this really awesome like succubus bitch with like this fucked up looking black tongue. It's pretty cool. And she's sometimes pretty hard to beat, but you know, she is really well, you know, she looks really good in the game too. I'm not just saying that she looks sexy, but like game-wise, like graphics-wise, she looks pretty good, along with all the other new enemies and that new zone. On top of that, we also kind of had like a new sort of mini zone. Like it wasn't actually like a whole new level. It was like a challenge mission almost, but it was like this really awesome grassy field sort of thing, like with really, really tall like brown grass. And I don't know, that was actually really beautiful in its own way as well. Like it wasn't like super lively, like it didn't look super lively because it was all like brown grass and shit, but nonetheless, it looked really beautiful. Like I really loved that zone. That's probably my favorite of like the new like graphics wise stuff that they've added, because I don't know, like, and they even had a little bit of like story to go along with it. I forget exactly what it was, but it talked about, you know, how the grass would sway or something like that, and it would make people like think they're seeing something. I forget exactly what it was, but it does have a little bit of lore to go along with it, which is really cool. And I think because it is set in the real world, that it might actually be real lore. So, you know, that's also kind of cool. It teaches you a little bit more about like those areas in Japan and stuff, and that's kind of badass. But yeah, before I get on to too much of a rant or anything, yes, the game is beautiful, and I have the utmost confidence that by the time we get the actual full game, it's going to be just as beautiful. So, final score for the graphics, 10 out of 10, hands down. It is beautiful from start to finish. Everything is so well textured. All the new enemies look amazing. The new animations look amazing because we did get new weapon styles. We got dual blades, which is badass. I am a dual blade master. But yeah, everything looks perfect, and it gives me really high hopes for the main game's looks as well. Okay, and now on to the second half of this review, since there's only 2 sections to really review, which is the gameplay. And I mean, the game already had some pretty good gameplay, but they expand on it even more in the beta, which, I mean, we can kind of expect, all things considered, since it is a beta rather than an alpha, but, I mean, it's so fulfilling. The gameplay, just starting off, I will say, it is so addicting. Like, you die. You will die. It's kind of just unavoidable. But no matter how many times I die, the gameplay is so addicting, it keeps me coming right back. And I love a game that will do that. I love a game that has gameplay that is so engrossing, so addicting, that you can lose track of time so easily. Like, the very first time I sat down and played the beta, I played it for maybe 7 hours, and it felt like an hour or two. And I love games that have gameplay that engrossing and that, you know, just addicting, that you can completely lose yourself in it. And this game definitely still keeps that. What I will say, I have a couple of bitches right off the bat that I want to get out of the way, which is primarily you have definitely some issues with camera. More specifically, like I said, in that mountainous cavern area when you're like in the caves, there's like these tunnels you have to go through, and the camera gets really iffy in those. On top of that, in that fiery village in the first stage, because they do still have the first stage, they got rid of that second stage from the alpha where it has that, like, I think it was like a lightning boss at the end. They got rid of that stage in favor of the mountainous cavern stage. But yeah, that fiery village stage also has some really bad camera issues because of like the tight spaces and everything. So that's something that I really hope they work out. Like, here's something that I think that they should honestly do, and I don't know how hard or easy it would be to do, but I've been playing Rune Factory Tides of Destiny, which, love it or hate it, yes, it's a casual game, yes, it's kind of a girly game, but I can't argue with the combat. I'm sorry, but it's really fun to just go fuck shit up with dual blades. But anyway, I've been playing Rune Factory Tides of Destiny, and I noticed that they have a really good way to deal with the camera issues, which is when the camera gets backed into something like a wall or a tree, it just disappears and lets the camera keep going. Like, essentially the camera will kind of be like where it was, but there won't be anything there anymore. Then when the camera moves, it'll be back there again. And it's like, okay, that takes away from immersion. I get that, but isn't not dying from mechanical issues a little bit more important than immersion, honestly? It already kind of breaks the immersion that the only reason you're dying is because of a fucking camera problem making it so you can't see shit. So I honestly think if they could do something like that, just make something disappear for a minute, just to give you enough time to actually, like, get back into, you know, an orientation where you can have the camera at a good angle, I think that would be good if they can do that. I don't know if they can or not, but yeah, camera kind of sucks sometimes, but it's not an issue that you'll run into too often, at least, which is good. My other small bitch is a mechanic that they actually have in there purposefully, that I hated in the alpha, that I still hate in the beta, and that is when you run out of stamina, you just sit there for a minute, and just people can wail on you. And I will say that they definitely improved on that in the beta. It's harder for that to happen. In fact, to my knowledge, I think you have to be out of stamina and then get hit for that to happen, if I remember correctly. Whereas in the alpha, all you had to do was just run out of stamina, and that was fucking bullshit. But all the same, it's like, it's already a hard game without that. And I kind of feel like they just added that in just to add a little extra bit of difficulty where it's not really needed. And I don't know, I just think that's a stupid gameplay aspect. Like, they're trying to sit there and be like, look at how difficult our game is! Look at how much you're gonna die! We're better than Dark Souls! And it's like, that's not good, that's not fun. Like, no, all the difficulty, all of the actual, like, the actual difficulty, and not something that's just in there to fuck you, all of the actual difficulty is fun. You know, like, how much damage enemies do, you know, it gets bullshit at times, but it's fun. And, you know, how hard it is to kind of time the dodging sometimes, it's still fun. Everything else is still fun, but running out of stamina and just freezing for a minute is not fun. I get if you can't swing your sword, I get if you can't sprint, but you should at least still be able to move a little. It's fucking stupid. I hate that. And it's not just that it kills me. I mean, more often than not, I actually get killed just because of my own stupid mistake, not that. But nonetheless, whether or not it kills me, I still just think it's a bad gameplay element in general, and I really wish they would take that out. You don't see that in most other games, even where stamina is a big thing to manage. You don't see them punishing you that much just for running out and maybe getting hit. I mean, I don't like that. I really hope they take that out, and I notice a lot of other people really hate that. A lot of other reviews I've seen, a lot of other, you know, like Reddit posts, things like that, people really don't like that, and I wish they would just take that out. But on to some really badass things that they added in the beta, which is, first of all, Nioh magic and ninjutsu is much more heavily featured, and I dare say this might even be the final iteration. Like, we might not get anything more to that. Maybe we will, I could be wrong, but all the same, we have a lot more that we can do with Nioh magic and ninjutsu, and it's a lot easier to get, you know, skill points for those too. And I found that a lot of those abilities are super hella useful. Smoke bombs, specifically, are fucking overpowered. I mean, if you're just starting, get some ninjutsu skill points and get fucking smoke bombs, man. Those things will make the game for you. I mean, every time I fight a remnant, which is, you know, like the dead, like, characters, like actual players getting up and whatnot, every time I fight one of those, you just throw a smoke bomb, and they just stand there and, like, you beat the shit out of them. And, like, the really big yokais, like the demons, like there's a ninja one, and then a sword one, and then an axe one. Again, throw a smoke bomb, and they just stand there and let you fuck them up. Which, I don't know if that was their intention. I kind of feel like it is, because it is so simple. Like, it is just literally, they just don't attack you if you're in the smoke radius. I mean, yes, you have to be in the smoke radius. Like, you can't just throw a smoke ball, then run halfway across the map or anything. You have to be in the smoke radius, but all the same, man, those things are overpowered and they're so fun to play with. And there's a lot of other really good ninjutsu abilities. A lot of ones that let you sneak up on enemies and, like, kind of assassinate them and shit, and that's pretty badass. And then the Nioh magic adds a lot of new, you know, items and, like, stat boosters and shit, and all of that's really cool. I'm loving that we get to play a lot more with that, and it really rounds out the game a bit more, you know, where it's not just hack and slashing all the time. And I really like that. Like, I love the hack and slashing, of course, but I love having that rounded out bit where you can have so much more, too. We also had new ways to sort of get stronger, which is familiarity and proficiency. Which, familiarity is when you have a weapon. Say, let's have an axe, okay? I have an axe. The more I use it, the more my familiarity with that specific axe will go up, and the more damage that specific axe will do. Whereas, say, if I switch to a different axe that I've never used before, that one's familiarity will be at 0, and I'll have to increase familiarity with that one. And familiarity doesn't ever go down for any reason or anything. I think there's actually something you can do to give it an extra ability that resets your familiarity or something, but you have to actually do that manually or anything. So it doesn't just go down on its own or anything. And yeah, like I said, the more it increases, the more damage it does. And that's pretty cool. You know, it adds another level of being able to do more damage, and I'm always welcome with that. And then there's, on top of that, there's proficiency, which the more you use a class of weapons, so like the more you use axes or spears or a single katana or dual katanas, which, yes, dual katanas is a separate fighting style from just katana. You don't just equip 2 katanas, you have to equip a set of dual katanas. But anyway, the more you use a class of weapon, the more your proficiency with that class of weapon increases. And it doesn't increase your stats, but it gives you a skill point every time. So the more you use dual blades, the more your proficiency increases, and when it hits a certain level, you'll get another samurai skill point. Which is awesome, because previously in the alpha, the only way you could get skill points was to level up. So this adds a much better way to, you know, get new skills and everything that doesn't just require you to level up. Leveling up does still give you skill points, but the proficiency gives you a lot more skill points. And I found that was actually really badass for them to add. On top of that, no fucking durability. No more goddamn using a freaking whetstone every 2 fucking seconds, man. I hated that in the alpha so much, and I'm glad they got rid of that. Rather, whetstones just increase your familiarity now, which is awesome. You know, that's a whole separate use, and they still managed to keep that item in the game, and I love it. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, we get a whole new fighting style, which is with dual blades, which is fucking badass. I am a master of dual blades. I fuck everything up with those, and I have nothing more to say. They're just really fun to play with. And then, on top of that, we have these new style of missions, which are called Twilight missions. Which, what that is after you beat both of the primary levels. Like, there's a little challenge level, too. And actually, there's 2 little challenge levels, because there's one where you fight one-on-one with this super hard samurai guy. But anyway, once you beat the 2 main levels, you unlock Twilight missions of those levels, as well as the challenge mission. Which the Twilight mission is basically, it's the same level, right? But with different enemies, and it's way harder. So it's kind of like a hard mode version of it. For those of you that maybe play MMOs, think just a hard mode version of like a dungeon or something. It's kind of the same thing, but except it also has the same layout. It's literally the same level, just the color scheme's different, and everything's higher leveled, like way higher leveled, and there's a bunch of new enemies all over the place. Like, enemy placements are completely different. I mean, there's a few that are the same, but mostly they're different. So, like, in the starter mission, where you're, like, at that beach and everything, rather than running into a few normal samurai dudes, you'll run into, like, the demon things right off the bat, as well as one of those fiery wheel things, and some undead samurais, and it's really badass. And it offers a whole different degree of replayability for those levels specifically, as well as a much better way of leveling up your character. So clearly, since this section has taken so long, they added a lot to the gameplay, and I love the vast majority of it. So, since this has gone on long enough, I will finally stop and say final score for the gameplay, 8 out of 10. Because they added so much, it is so amazing, so addicting, but I will say that there are those things that I don't like the running out of stamina and freezing, and the fucking camera issues. They definitely take a lot out of the game, in my opinion, but not too much. That's why it's still an 8 out of 10, but, you know, that's why it's not any higher. So there you have it, guys. There's my review of the Nioh beta. As you can tell, as you can probably tell at least, I'm very, very excited for the final product. I can't wait to actually get this game when it comes out. Oh, man. So what have you guys thought about this beta for those of you that have played it? Do you think it was better than the alpha? Do you think it was worse? I don't know why you think it was worse, but all the same, do you? Are you excited for the final game? Are you still not giving a shit? Let me know all of that in the comment section down below. Definitely leave a like on this video, and definitely subscribe for future videos, because I'll be uploading multiple videos every week as usual. So, that'd be about it. So until next time, stay pretty, my buddies.